I think it's representative of a large part of the left, and I say that because look at the reaction we have seen from the left. They are cheering, they are celebrating his death. You have outlets saying Charlie Kirk shouldn't have died, but he said some pretty hateful things, as if they're on some moral high ground to say
but
that.
I wonder, have you seen any evidence of any prominent mainstream Democrats doing what you just described?
There's a Democratic state senator in
celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. Did anybody actually celebrating?
You can't think of the name?
I saw it on Twitter yesterday.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Hold on. I know what you're talking about because I've seen it too. He did not. In fact, he started that tweet saying that Charlie Kirk should not have been killed. So do you have any evidence of mainstream Democrats celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder?
It does not need to be a mainstream top dog Democrat when the majority of the comments online from the left have been celebratory or cheering on political murder.
How do you know it's a majority?
500,000 likes on a tweet is a lot of people. That is not a fringe or an outskirt.
There's like 7 billion people on social media today.
Yeah.
Half a million people.
And about half
a million people.
About half of the people on social media, by the way, are not even real people. So I do think we have to kind of, the internet is not real life.
Everybody here acknowledges that there have been thousands upon thousands of people, ordinary people, who have taken to social media to celebrate this, yes or no?
I don't know about that.
You know,
I don't know.
I have high school friends who are.
Scott, hold on a second. Hold on. I just think we should just, we got to be factual about this, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you know the scope. I don't know the scope. But I do think that we have to distinguish between random people in the world and something that is a dominant issue.
Because the person who shot Charlie Kirk was a random person in the world, was he not?
Well, here's the thing.
That's the danger. You dismiss the random people of the world. They have access to weapons
assassinations
and
in
hateful
this country.
motivations.
There have been political assassinations in this country before, Scott.
Boy. So we got to continue our coverage of what I believe to be the most disgusting gaslighting campaign that I've ever seen in the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Okay, these people, liberals, leftists, the liberal media, for whatever reason, they've all gone full blue on, and they're afraid to admit the truth about the shooter, which is that he was far left. Okay, he was a far left Antifa radicalized individual. The FBI has confirmed this. The local law enforcement have confirmed this. But for whatever reason, blue and on, they're having a hard time figuring it out, because at first they were sure that this was a MAGA guy, that this was a Nick Fuentes, Groyper, far right, this was infighting, right? So they went from that to, well, his politics weren't exclusively left-wing. It is impossible to know what his politics were. I mean, this stuff doesn't fit neatly, okay? We really just don't know, and it might be impossible to figure it out.
Flashback.
Robinson and his family don't look like trans liberals to me. Tyler's family is registered Republicans. His father is a minister and former law enforcement. They have family members in the military. And here he is, was raised in gun culture, shooting guns. So we knew that the person who shot Kirk would have to have experience. Here he is as a very small child with an assault rifle. This has sadly become a huge part of American culture, where kids, here he is sitting down with a huge weapon. So this fits not the profile of a radical leftist, because we don't go to gun shows and take photographs with weapons. This sadly is what always comes out about these right-wing extremists. Gun culture is a huge part of it. Loneliness, radicalization online.
Several days later.
And what I'm seeing here is that this kid wasn't really like into leftist ideology, nor was he like a diehard MAGA. Like a lot of these shooters, their ethos and their ideology is somewhat ambiguous. It's somewhat isolating, and it's different. And we do know that this kid grew up in a Mormon family, a very MAGA family. And I imagine if he were bisexual or not completely cis, or hetero, that could make him feel very isolated in very conservative Utah. The Serfs, he summarizes it and says the leaked Discord logs show that the FBI had been spreading a false narrative. The friends of the shooter were not celebrating or cheering on Charlie Kirk's death. they were shocked and horrified that his politics are not exclusively left-wing and the media is getting it wrong. And then, why did you do this? How long has this been going on? Are you serious? Like, it's trying to wrestle with it. All the people in his Discord chat from the video games were shocked because he wasn't overtly political at all.
Wow. 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 Again, I couldn't imagine having no morals, no soul, no integrity as a commentator, as somebody that my job is to give you guys the facts, the evidence, in my opinion, right? I couldn't imagine gaslighting you guys the same way that liberal influencers are gaslighting their audiences right now about the motivations behind Charlie Kirk's death, right? I just couldn't imagine doing that, because when it first came out, it was, oh, this is a MAGA guy. We see this all the time, right? Now all of a sudden it's, well, we don't know if he was political. Well, if he was political, his ideology wasn't exclusively left-wing. He wasn't political at all, right? Again, it's just fascinating to watch these people go through the stages of denial and trying to do mental gymnastics with their audience in order to avoid saying and stating the obvious truth about what happened here. Again, this stuff really should be studied in propaganda textbooks, because again, it's not just blue anon. It's not just these, fringe, cuckoo, blue anon people. Blue anon is mainstream on the liberal media, right? Especially on CNN, because on CNN, they're running with the narrative that, again, we don't really know why this happened, and that this was a love story, right? A love story gone wrong, right? This is the narrative that they're putting out at CNN. But again, of course, people like Scott Jennings, they're not having it when it comes to pushing this blatant lie on national television about what happened here.
Talking about a love-torn child, a kid. This is probably his first real relationship, and somebody was disparaging the person that he loved. He sat on that building for 30 minutes before he took the shot. Why did he wait until the first word trans came up? Then he took the shot.
You think he heard it? He could hear it?
I think he could hear it. I think he also, I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally.
Although I do think there's clearly an ideological difference. That's why I played about what they said about the family. I mean, the ideological difference that he was reacting to wasn't just Charlie Kirk. It was also maybe his dad. I mean, his father was, according to him, MAGA. So that conflict was there, clearly.
But this is a young man who was dating a person in transition.
Guys, the evidence here is overwhelming. He said, Charlie Kirk, I can't stand this hate anymore. I'm going to take him out. The testimony from him and the statements of his family, he had become more left-wing. He etched the statements that are made by the left about Republicans and conservatives and Charlie Kirk fascist on the bullet casings.
He made a joke about it in his last text.
Well, it doesn't sound like a joke to me, because someone's dead and about to be buried. Well, so it doesn't sound like a joke to me. So I'm just telling you, there is an effort. There was an effort all weekend long on the left to try to make this guy sound like he was a conservative. That failed. That was passed around all over the weekend. That has now failed. The evidence has now come out. He was motivated by hate. He was motivated by left-wing radicalism. He got mixed up with some trans ideology in his life. We'll learn more about that, I'm sure, when more evidence and testimony comes out. We are looking around the edges of this for something other than what's staring us in the face. Left-wing radicalism got this kid. He went up to a roof and he murdered our friend, and that's what happened.
Can we, for 1 second, understand that as we continue, Scott just got all angry, got real mad. Face it, it's got to be this, it's got to be this, it's got to be this. Why can't we have a discussion about how long is it going to take for us to figure out a way to come back together?
Just to be clear, I am angry.
Can we just let him finish
I
his
am
thought,
angry.
Scott? I'll let you
because
talk.
I knew it.
Scott, I'll let you talk in just a second. Go ahead.
Could we spend as much time figuring out how we bridge this and come back together again? I used to have a note on my producer's desk when I did my show that was said, we don't belabor what happens, we try to figure out why it happens and come up with solutions. Right now, all we're doing is belaboring what happened over and over and over and over again. We're not going to sit down and try to figure out how do we stop it. If we
You
want
got
to
to go
stop
after
political violence,
left-wing terrorists. That's actually exactly the conversation we're having, is we're acknowledging there's a problem.
so anybody who disagrees with you is a left-wing terrorist.
Absolutely not, but if they target a conservative and murder him in brutal fashion, he's probably a left-wing
let me answer your
Yes,
question.
that person is a murderer.
you said-
We can all acknowledge that.
You said I am angry, and I'm just telling. I am channeling the emotions of millions of conservatives who are angry. They knew Charlie. They loved Charlie. They viewed Charlie as a mainstream conservative Republican voice who talked about issues that millions of Americans believe. He also talked about his faith. And he did it by going to college campuses, which are not normally hospitable to conservatives, and offering his opponents a microphone to have what we always say.
In support of what? In support of what?
Civil discourse.
Not only that, but support of the First Amendment.
And
he
guess
made
what?
sure that people had an opportunity
guess
to
what?
stand in a room and talk.
He was murdered trying to do what we always say. Why don't we talk to each other? So yes, it's not even been a week. So you're going to have to give us a little grace on being angry about somebody who did what you always say that we should do. Let's talk.
We didn't
and he
get much
got killed.
grace over.
And he got
more
killed.
than a week's grace over
So-
2 Michigan elected officials who were murdered. Did we give? Was it 3 weeks before we decided to say that there was something wrong with Speaker Pelosi's husband being hit in the head with a hammer?
By a homeless drug addict? I mean, it was terrible that happened. This is not the same kind of case.
Again, wow. That one line that Montel Williams used, this was not a crime motivated by ideology, it was motivated by emotion. I'm gonna keep that one, right? I'm gonna keep that line in my back pocket, okay, just in case I need to use it in the future, right? That line is a line that I'm gonna steal, okay? But again, as you guys can see, I mean, these people just have no shame. They have no shame. I mean, again, at first, far right, right? Far right. And then it went from, well, it's impossible to know. We really don't know what he was motivated by. Could have been, a trans love story going wrong. And then it's, well, we may never know, right? We may never know. It may be impossible to figure it out. I want you guys to imagine if MAGA was written on the bullet encasings, would these people be saying it's impossible to know? Of course not, because a few days ago, apparently it was possible for them to know when they thought that he was far right. Now that they can't come out here and say with a straight face that he was far right, now all of a sudden it's impossible to know. Again, if the roles were reversed, if MAGA or Make America Great Again was written on the bullet encasings, do you think that these people would be pretending as if it's impossible to know? The only time these people don't want to talk about ideology when it comes to this type of stuff is when it's a leftist. When a leftist is involved, they don't want to talk about it. Okay? They don't want to talk about it. It's always, well, both sides, right? Anytime a leftist is involved, it's always both sides. But when it's a right-winger or somebody they believe is right-wing, because the vast majority of the time, the person is not right-wing, they just claim that he's right-wing, right, with no evidence. But when they think it's right-wing, okay, well, we got a problem with far-right violence in this country, right? They want to have that conversation. It's not impossible for them to know. It's really fascinating because, again, it's not just the blue and non-liberals. I understand why the blue and non-liberals are doing this. But I think what really is the mask-off moment here for the media is that they're embracing blue and non-conspiracy theories. Like, there's no difference between what the journalists are saying and what the propagandists, the influencers are saying online, right? And that is the part about it that I think really gets me, because it's like, it's one thing for the influencers to say it. It's another thing for so-called journalists like Kaitlan Collins to act like this.
You said a lot there, and we don't have a motive yet. We don't know yet. We're waiting. Obviously, we've heard what the governor's had to say, what the FBI director said today.
Come on, we don't have a motive yet.
We know
we don't have a motive yet.
What's
really?
happening with
really? That's CNN's position.
I mean, from law enforcement,
he just happened
Senator.
to fire the gun in celebration. You can't tell the motive.
Senator, that's not what I said. And I said law enforcement hasn't laid out a direct motive. They've laid out a lot of evidence here.
Law enforcement hasn't laid out a direct motive. Now, keep in mind, this interview was after the FBI came out and said that left-wing ideology. The government said left-wing ideology. You have the local prosecutor saying left-wing ideology, that he did not like Charlie Kirk. He thought that Charlie Kirk's views were hateful. But CNN, we're talking about an anchor. Right now, Kaitlan Collins is playing the role as journalist. as journalists. On national television, she's claiming, well, we don't know the motive. Law enforcement hasn't stated them. They just said that the dude was left-wing. They already told you that. But for whatever reason, that went in Kaitlan Collins' ear, one ear, and right out the other. Now, again, I guarantee you, if the roles were reversed and law enforcement came out and said the shooter was right-wing, right, in the same way that they said about this guy, Tyler Robinson, being left-wing, do you think that Kaitlan Collins would say, well, the motive is unknown. We don't really know the motive. There's been no motive stated. Again, I don't understand how you get on national television and lie to people like this. How? I really don't understand it. I can't relate to this. I can't relate. Okay? I cannot relate to lying like this. I can't. I just can't.
Of these messages and what
actually
the
they
shooter
have.
said to
They've said that
family
he was a
members
left-wing
and to
activist who hated
roommates.
Charlie Kirk. Pardon?
Senator, with all due respect, you know exactly what I'm saying. I'm not arguing with you politically. I'm saying that law enforcement has not put a specific motive. You know that there's a difference of what they're putting in a legal argument than what you're talking about. And you're not even. We're not even arguing about the facts here.
What you just said is false,
Senator
Kaitlan.
No.
Kaitlan. Facts. Hold on a second. Let me answer your statement because what you said is factually
Senator, with
false.
all due respect,
law enforcement.
With all due respect, you're putting a lot of statements
okay, go ahead,
that I did
give your
not
speech.
say. And I want to get back to, we just laid out the facts.
You
in the
just
opening
said
of the
law
show,
enforcement has not laid out a motive. That is objectively
and we just spoke to the
false.
Deputy Attorney General.
That is objectively false.
They
what
have not
you
set a
saying
concrete
is
motive of
objectively
exactly
false,
what it was.
And
They've
CNN
laid out
should
every
not be
evidence that we
engaged
know
in
so far.
misinformation.
I guarantee you, if Tyler Robinson comes out and says, I'm left-wing and I did it because I hate Charlie Kirk, these people would still be saying, well, he could be lying. He's just joking. He's just joking. He doesn't really mean that. Just like what they're trying to say about what's written on the bullets, which clearly is left-wing jargon, okay? Oh, well, they were jokes. He didn't really mean that, right? It was a meme. It was a meme, right? He didn't really mean that. Again, it's mind-boggling. It really is. I understand why a left-wing influencer on YouTube would not want to admit the truth. But this right here, from CNN, this is bottom of the barrel when you talk about journalism.
Kaitlan, answer my question.
Have
you seen the polling
Senator.
that shows the vast majority of Democrats believe this murderer is a Republican and a Trump supporter? Have you seen that polling?
Let me get back to my questions, though, Senator, because the question here
You're not going to answer that
was
question?
actually
Are you going to answer
what
that
you were
question?
saying
You
about
have seen that
investigations that
polling.
you'd like to see.
So you're not going to
Senator,
answer the
I'm the
question.
one asking the questions here. And the question
No,
about
we're having
you
a
saying that
conversation. I
right-wing or
understand
left-wing groups
that
need
you
to be
want to
investigated
say
for
things
where
that
the
are
financing
factually
is
false,
coming.
and then you
Do
don't
you believe
actually
that
want the
right-wing
facts.
groups also
you don't
need to
actually
be
want the
investigated?
facts laid out.
Do you believe that right-wing groups also should be investigated? Again, on both sides, we don't know the motive, but do you believe that right-wing groups should be investigated? Right? Again, it's wow. Wow. I'm just speechless at this point. I cannot believe it. I just cannot believe that the mainstream liberal media has gone full blue and on to this level. It is fascinating.
Okay, give your speech.
That's not true, Senator. I'm asking you a question.
Go ahead. I don't know what your question is because we have a delay because you're in England, so I can't hear what you're saying.
You said that you believe that left-wing groups should be investigated. You want to know where the financing is coming from for protests. Do you believe that they should also be looking into right-wing groups as well, or do you believe it should only be limited to that?
Look, I believe anyone engaged in acts of violence should be prosecuted and go to jail. But I will say there has been an enormous amount, and CNN has been guilty of this, of both sidesism, of saying, gosh, both sides are violent. And understand, yes, there is some violence on both sides, but it is the left that overwhelmingly celebrates this. It is leftists that have been celebrating. You look at Blue Sky, and it is a cesspool of leftists celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. You look at recent polling that shows over 50% of Democrats saying violence against Elon Musk is justified. Violence against Donald Trump is justified. You look at Democrats who do things like what Kamala Harris did of giving money and urging people to give money to bail out violent rioters and Antifa riots. It is only one side that justifies this violence. My view is if you commit acts of violence, you should be prosecuted. And so, yes, we should follow the money. Anyone funding acts of violence, we should go
Senator,
after. But this is a left-wing problem.
how can you argue that it's, I think the argument that people have been talking about recently is what's going on with the Charlie Kirk case. I think people have raised that because there have been other acts of political violence as well when it comes to targeting Democrats. I mean, we've seen that with a lawmaker who was killed in Minnesota this summer alongside her husband. We've seen it with the break-in at Nancy Pelosi.
But the assassin
We've also
there
seen
was
it with Justice Brett Kavanaugh
the
and
assassin
others.
Hold on a second. If you're going to say facts, you need to get your facts right. The assassin there was not a right-wing assassin acting on a political motive. The assassin there was someone who had been an appointee of Tim Walz, and he was a deranged lunatic. And yes, there are deranged lunatics who attack people both right and left, but if you look at murders carried out for political agendas, they are overwhelmingly on the left. Whether it is the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the 2 assassination attempts of Donald Trump, the assassination attempt on Brett Kavanaugh, over and over and over again, whether it was the congressional shooter who came to Washington to the baseball game and said, I want to find congressional
we've noted all of those
to
instances.
Yeah, right. But you haven't really had real conversations about it, right? You haven't come on air and specifically had conversations about left-wing domestic terrorism happening in this country, right? Now, again, they'll do that when it comes to the right, but they won't do it when it comes to the left unless they want to try to both sides it, right? The only time they'll talk about the left is, well, both sides, right? When it comes to a leftist. When it comes to somebody on the right, oh, well, all this right-wing, white nationalist, white supremacy, the terrorism, oh, it's out of control. That's what they'll do. But again, when it's a leftist, oh, well, see, you don't understand. You can't say it's exclusively on the left, right? No, it's both sides. And again, it's just so funny because the whataboutism, both sides thing, again, their points are not even valid, right? Like, again, what happened to that Democrat that they didn't care about, okay, until they could dig up her body to use as a shield against criticism for the fact that this assassin was left-wing, okay, that assassinated Charlie Kirk. That guy specifically said it had nothing to do with Trump. It didn't have anything to do with his politics. It had everything to do with, I don't know, some personal thing that him and Tim Walz had going on, right? That is what that dude said. The dude that burned Josh Shapiro's mansion was a far-left Palestinian activist. Again, like they're talking, well, violence is done against Democrats. Well, again, you're not seeing the same nature and the same reasons for why violence is happening against Democrats that you're seeing against Republicans, right? It's not the same thing. But these people keep trying to make it the same thing because, again, whataboutism is used in order to avoid any type of direct criticism of the left. And people are sick and tired of it, man. People are sick and tired of the media and this bullshit. That's just the honest to God truth. So, once again, we have Olympic level mental gymnastics coming from liberals in Blue and On, right? And unfortunately, it is being platformed on our so-called news channels, okay? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.